Hello and welcome to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In this video, we are going to add the final 20 creature cards with mana values of 1 into our Momir Vig Cube. What's up, MTG BC? You are the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to another installment of our soon-to-be ending Momir Vig Cube Series. Today we are going to put the final 20 creature cards with CMCs of 1 into our cube. If you are unfamiliar with our Momir Vig Cube Series or just need a refresher, you can seek the link in the description below that will take you to MTG Burgeoning's introduction to the Momir Vig Cube. And in addition, there's also a link in the description below that takes you to Cube Cobra, where you can see the entire contents of our cube as it stands right now. So here we go, the final 20 creature cards with mana values of 1, and we begin with Ulvenwald Tracker, a 1/1 human shaman that we can pay 1 and a green mana and tap to have target creature we control fight another target creature. In Momir Vig, creature removal is as rare as winter roses, particularly because the format is void of any instant or sorcery spells. So any creatures that can provide some semblance of removal are highly coveted. Just be sure to know you can only activate that ability with that green mana, so make sure you diversify your basic land library. Next up, creature number 2 is a colorless shapeshifter. It is the Universal Automaton. It's a 1/1 with Changeling, which means it's every creature type. So if you have any creature synergies, then Universal Automaton is going to link up with those synergies and help you to form what could potentially be a somewhat formidable tribe. All right, creature number 3 on Mono White Edition, we have Usher of the Fallen, a 2/1 spirit warrior with the boast mechanic. Now, the boast mechanic can only be activated if this creature is attacking. So we can pay 1 and a white mana, and we will create a 1/1 human warrior creature token. Again, notice the presence of the white mana. Make sure you diversify those basic land libraries. Creatures that can make creatures are very, very valuable in the Momir Vig format. Hopefully we can send Usher of the Fallen into combat a couple of times, knowing that it won't be killed, so that we can create a couple of peripheral 1/1 human warriors. All right, next up, Mono Black Edition, we have the Vampire Bats. It's a 0/1 with flying, and it has swamp breathing, meaning that we can pay a black mana to give it +1/+0 until end of turn, but we cannot spend more than 2 black mana in this way each turn. Again, we're going to need those swamps to produce that black mana, so make sure they're in that library. So at best, we've got a 2/1 with flying, but we're going to need back-to-back swamps in order to have that happen by turn 2. Rounding out the first quarter of this video and back-to-back mono black creatures, we have Vampire Cutthroat, a 1/1 with lifelink and Skulk. Now, Skulk is an ability where this creature cannot be blocked by creatures with greater power. So any creature on our opponent's side of the battlefield with a power north of 1 will not be able to block Vampire Cutthroat. And that lifelink ability should not be overlooked. We begin each game of Momir Vig with 24 life, and in a combat-driven format such as this one, gaining peripheral life could be the difference between winning the game and losing the game. All right, we're going to continue our trend of mono-black creatures. This time it is Vampire Lacerator, a 2/2, and at the beginning of our upkeep, we lose 1 life unless an opponent has 10 or less life. So this is going to cost us in the early game, particularly if this comes down as our first creature summon from the Momir Vig Cube. A 2/2 on turn 1 maybe it will be worth it to make sure that we lose that 1 life just to have a 2/2, although I sense that we will probably not be able to swing for 14 points of damage with this creature in time to prevent it from being a life-draining problem for us in the mid to late game. All right, our 4th consecutive mono-black creature, we have Vampire of the Dire Moon, a 1/1 with Death Touch and Lifelink. We can trade up with an opponent if they so choose, or they can let us swing in for 1 point of damage and we gain 1 life, and that Lifelink ability is going to be very, very valuable. All right, we're back to another colorless edition. This is Vector Asp, a 1/1 snake. We can pay a black mana, and it gains Infect until end of turn. A creature with Infect deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters, and deals damage to players in the form of poison counters. And when a player gets a 10th poison counter, they lose the game. But again, we can only give Vector Asp Infect if we have those swamps. So once more, make sure you diversify your basic land library. All right, the creature number 9, our first mono red edition, it is Vexing Devil. This is a 4/3 for 1 mana. When it ETBs, any opponent may have it deal 4 damage to them, and if a player does, then we sacrifice Vexing Devil. So minimally, we'll invest 1 mana to have an opponent take 4 damage off of their starting life total, and if that opponent does not, well, then we should have the advantage the first few turns of the game by turning Vexing Devil sideways and sending its 4/3 body into combat. All right, rounding out the first half of creatures in this video is another mono-black vampire. This time it's Vicious Conquistador, a 1/2 that whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. Even if we cannot successfully have the Vicious Conquistador survive its combat, still having each opponent lose 1 life is going to put us ahead in the game. Creature number 11, we're going back to mono red. This time, it's Village Messenger, a 1/1 with haste. Man, will you look at that. First turn, summon this to your side of the battlefield, turn it sideways, and already deal the first point of damage. And as an additional bonus, at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast the previous turn, we transform Village Messenger into Moonrise Intruder, a 2/2 werewolf with menace, which will stay that way because the way that Momir Vig works is that you can summon 1 creature from the Momir Vig Cube per turn, so there are not going to be more than 1 spell cast in any given turn. This could be one of the best 1-drops to hit your side of the battlefield to begin the game. All right, we're going to our first mono blue edition in this video, and it is Vortex Elemental. It's a 0/1 that we can pay a blue and put Vortex Elemental and each creature blocking or blocked by it on top of their owner's libraries, and then those players shuffle their libraries. Why this is so important is that every creature that's summoned from the Momir Vig Cube is a token copy of the creature. So, by having a token leave the battlefield, it ceases to exist. So Vortex Elemental has kind of a warped little way to manage some creatures on the battlefield. Again, it's only if it's blocked by or only if it's blocking the other creature. We can make this a little more beneficial for us by paying 3 and 2 blue mana to have target creature block Vortex Elemental this turn if able. Now, that's 3 blue mana we would need to pull off this trick. That's a lot of islands that we have to have on our side of the battlefield, so you better make sure you diversify. All right, another mono green edition. This time, it's Warden of the First Tree. It's going to come into play as a 1/1 human. We can pay 1 and any combination of Orzhov hybrid mana. That's a white or a black mana. And Warden of the First Tree becomes a human warrior with base power toughness 3/3. If we pay 2 and any combination of 2 white and or black mana, then Warden of the First Tree becomes a warrior I'm sorry, if it is a warrior, then it becomes a human spirit warrior with trample and lifelink. So then we have a 3/3 with trample and lifelink. If we go even further and pay 3 generic mana and any 3 combination of white and black mana, then we put 5 +1/+1 counters on it. If we go through all of this leveling up, then we end up with an 8/8 trampling lifelink human spirit warrior. Whoa, baby, that's a lot of mana to invest, but at that rate throughout the game, it could be a game ender. Another mono green edition. This time it is Wasteland Viper, a 1/2 with Death Touch. It does have the Blood Rush mechanic, but that's going to be meaningless here because we're not having this creature in our hand ever in a game of Momir Vig. Rounding out the first 3/4 of the creatures in this video is another mono red edition. It is Wayward Guide Beast. It's a 2/2 beast with trample and haste, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we return a land we control to its owner's hand. Now that's going to be very, very battlefield dependent. If we are in the lead and pulling away, it may be okay to return those lands to our hand. It may be something else if we're trying to play a game of catch-up or, our opponents are out-ramping us. We may not want to have those lands go back to our hands because we need them in play in order to generate more and more mana to summon the creatures from the Momir Vig Cube. All right, another mono green edition. This time it is Whipperwin. It is a 1/1 Whipperwin. We can pay 2 green and tap this, and until end of turn, target creature may not regenerate, and damage done to target creature may not be prevented or redirected. There are some regeneration synergies woven into the Momir Vig Cube, and with 2 green mana and Whipperwin on our side of the battlefield, we can prevent those creatures from being regenerated. A multicolored edition here is Wild Cantor. It's a 1/1 human druid that we can sacrifice to add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. So we can accelerate our mana the following turn or some turn thereafter and summon a creature from the Momir Vig Cube ahead of curve. And for all the old school Magic players out there, you're going to love this edition in the 18 spot. It is Willow the Wisp, a 0/1 flyer that we can pay a black to regenerate. Again, there's that regeneration we were talking about just a moment ago. We can't regenerate it without the swamp, so make sure they're in that basic land library. Creature number 19 is Zabaz, the Glimmer Wasp. It's a 0/0 insect, but it has modular 1, which means it's going to come into play with a +1/+1 counter. If a modular triggered ability would put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature we control, that many +1/+1 counters are put onto it instead. We can also pay a red mana to destroy target artifact we control, which more often than not is probably just going to be a target artifact creature we control instead. We can pay a white mana, and Zabaz the Glimmer Wasp gains flying until end of turn. There are also some modular synergies built into the cube. How they will be able to synergize and interact with Zabaz? Well, we play the game to find that out. And here it is, creature number 200 in the 1-drop of our Momir Vig Cube, closing out this portion of the series. It is Zealous Guardian, a 1/1. That is all. The flash doesn't matter because, again, all creatures are summoned randomly from the Momir Vig Cube. With so few 1-drops that are multicolored options in Magic right now, this 1/1 Kithkin Soldier may be one of the first to be replaced when more options become available. All right, there you have it, MTG BC. 200 creature cards with mana values of 1 are now into the Momir Vig Cube. I would like to know in the comment section below, which are your favorites? This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.